We left off in the middle of chapter 12, so we'll pick up right where we left off.
Okay.
There's been a major break in the case. Flying woozily back to the billboard, Honky spotted something on a side street and immediately circled down for a closer look. According to him, the faded red letters on an old green sign above a dusty shop window spelled out Sam Spade's Mystery Bookshop. Eureka! I didn't know Mr. Spade owned a bookshop, panted Petey, landing heavily beside me on a thin wire strung between poles. In today's economy, it's smart to diversify, said Mr. Geringer, hovering in the air and showing no signs of fatigue. Okay, men, I said, catching my breath. Let's go investigate it. We entered the store as a startled elderly man exited. We trooped past stacks of dusty boxes, turned down a narrow aisle lined with towering, book-jammed shelves, and warily approached a counter illuminated by a grimy tube lamp. Under the flickering, buzzing lamp sat a small, delicate-looking man, smoking a sinuous cigarette that appeared to be carved from polished wood. Uh-oh, I whispered. Joel Cairo in the flesh. On the shelf behind him, hissed Petey. I looked up. The statuette of a majestic black bird. The malt. Cat! Shouted Mr. Geringer. Cat! Blind, desperate panic. Even Petey managed to get airborne as we rocketed wildly up and down the aisles, scattering cobwebs and customers. Killer pigeons! Screamed one middle-aged man, fleeing toward the exit. They're attacking all over the city! Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Cried Honky. Killer pigeons, said Cairo, calming, removing the wooden cigarette from his treacherous beak. Hasn't that been done before? Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Bellowed Petey, crash landing on the loftiest shelf. On the counter! On the counter! Shouted Mr. Geringer, swooping past. I looked down from the top of the swaying tube lamp. On a pile of books, to the right of Cairo's thin wing, lay a formless ball of orange fur that appeared to be asleep. Cairo tapped it on its shoulder. Wake up, Pinkerton, he said. It's time you earned your keep. We're being invaded by killer pigeons. The cat stretched out a frightening orange paw, opened his eyes, spotted Mr. Geringer, and was instantly alert. His fierce jaws chattered as he scanned the ceiling. Then his amber eyes locked onto me. In the same instant, he dematerialized from the counter in a spray of papers and now loomed directly in front of me on the top shelf of a nearby bookcase. Crouching, he inched toward me as I felt my muscles go rigid under his mesmerizing gaze. I smelled something foul. Cat breath. The world fell away. Time stopped. The entrancing eyes didn't blink. Nothing registered, only numb terror. A streak of green flew between us, breaking the spell. The beast pounced, but not at me. I saw something green fluttering between two orange paws. Crash! My window! Screamed Joel Cairo. All heads turned. A large fish, my guess a halibut, flopped athletically amid the glass-littered books in the front window. Humph! Grunted the cat as a speeding gray mass knocked him and his victim off the shelf. Down they fell, the cat righting himself in midair and landing lightly on four paws. Instantly he sprang up on his hind legs to snare the tumbling parakeet. who was deftly snagged by his tail feathers by a diving seagull. Kenny soared upward, and the cat leaped and missed. "Let's go, men," I called. "Out the window." "A death wish," muttered the parakeet, smoothing his disheveled feathers. "Is that what you've got, Robin? A pathological death wish?" "Now, just lie still, Mr. Geriger," said Darla soothingly. We were back among our friends in their cozy billboard home. Despite his strained shoulder and a pinched tail feather nerve, Mr. Geriger did not lie still. "Or were you engaged in some sort of up-close field study of the hunting techniques of the domestic feline? Is that what you were doing, Robin?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Geriger," I replied. "I guess I froze up. I never imagined cats could be so intimidating." "One almost got me once," admitted Wallace, "back when I first came to Frisco." "Oh, Wallace," said Julie, "what happened?" "I was having a snack on the sidewalk, pretty late at night. Some tourist lost a gourmet 4-course dinner. I think he'd been washing it down with too much champagne.
Oh my God.
Quite a feast. Well, all of a sudden, I got this awful feeling of dread. Nothing you could put a wing on, but I decided to bail out. I took off about a half-second ahead of this enormous pouncing cat. He'd been sneaking up on me, a ferocious gray one." "Oh, that's terrible," said Julie, shuddering. "You gotta keep your eyes open, babe," he said, snuggling against her. We heard a flapping of wings outside. Kenny poked his head through the narrow opening. "It's the pits," he said. "Some creep made off with my fish. I think maybe it was a cop. The place is crawling with them. Damn, that was the biggest halibut I ever caught." "Sorry, Kenny," I said. "Thanks for rescuing us again." "I owe you one, Kenny," added Mr. Geriger. "My services are at your disposal. What will it be? Jungian analysis? Dream work? Some intensive gestalt therapy?" I'll let you know," Kenny replied. "Move your ass, seagull," we heard a coarse voice say. Kenny withdrew his head, and Phoebe walked in. "Who's the malt case?" asked Blanche. Phoebe glared at her, then turned to Wallace. "In case you're interested, you bastard," said his mate, "your kids just pecked through their shells." Chapter 13. We made the papers again today. On his way back from bookstore surveillance duty, Kenny swiped the early edition of the Chronicle from a passenger on one of those red wooden cars that rattle up and down the hills on metal tracks. We spread out the main news section on a wind-sheltered corner of the travel roof below our billboard home, where, by the way, the ladies now remain in silent, reproachful indignation. Personally, I fail to see why all of the males should be blamed for the transgressions of one. Honky puffed on a parliament and studied imposing black type that graphically thundered, "Killer pigeons raid landmark bookstore." Below it, another headline, less strident in its typographical sensationalism, added, "Shock merchant mystified by unprovoked attack." "Unprovoked my foot," I said, as if the cad hadn't brazenly assaulted Miss O'Shaughnessy. That's all the provocation any gentleman needs. What else does it say? Honky read on. It says the attack by the birds came as a complete surprise to bookstore owner Fred J. Dolan, 48 of 120 Ellis Street. An obvious pseudonym for Joel Cairo, I pointed out. Go on, Honky. Dolan estimates his premises sustained damages in excess of $3,500, not counting anticipated vet bills for his injured cat's sprained ankle. My heart bleeds for him, said Petey. Any mention of Sam Spade? Not that I can see, said Honky, tunneling under to an inside page. Hey, here's a picture of Dr. Milbreen. We tugged the pages over with our beaks, uncovering our pal, and eagerly gathered around the smudged reproduction of the distinguished scientist. Watch it, Honky, said Petey. You're dropping ashes on Dr. Milbreen. The man looks obviously stressed, observed Mr. Jerriger. As well he should be, considering his ordeal, I said. What does it say, Honky? It says he's being sued, Robin, for $950,000 by the parents of 2 San Francisco youth injured when he escaped laboratory pigeons allegedly dropped lighted cigarettes on them. We're not pigeons, I insisted. What does Dr. Milbreen say? Reached at his UC laboratory, renowned biologist Dr. Eli Milbreen denied responsibility for the attack and all recent depredations by the so-called killer pigeons, said Dr. Milbreen, quote, due to their powerful homing instincts, all of our test animals returned to the laboratory within 24 hours of their release. All are present and accounted for. We looked at each other in stunned disbelief. Robin, what does this mean? Asked Honky. It means, I regret to say, that dastardly imposters may have taken our place in test group C. It looks something like a gigantic cigarette tipped up on its end, I remarked, trying to catch my breath. Darla frowned. I suppose you could say that, Robin. Well, would you like to fly on? No, it's okay. Let's rest here a moment, I gasped, bending over to catch my wind. Darla turned and studied the view from our perch atop the roof of a lofty tower that rose in cigarette-like cylindricality above pale buildings clinging precariously to the sides of a steep cliff. Below us, the city stretched in all directions to the shores of the Bathwater Bay, glistening blue in the afternoon sunlight. I had never been this high. Isn't it beautiful? She asked, apparently not winded by our strenuous flight. What? I inquired, praying I didn't get a beak bleed from the dangerous elevation. The view. Oh, yes, well, I suppose. Say, Darla, didn't you find that flight rather tiring? Not at all, Robin. Look, you can see all the way across the bay to to the other side. Yes, it's a stupendous distance, I agreed, starting to get my breath back. Excuse me for a moment. I flew down to an open observation platform and snatched a cigarette from a tourist who was just lighting up. Look, Darla, I said, returning to her side. I scored a Calms, my favorite brand. Care for a smoke? No, thank you, Robin. You know, I think your lung capacity might improve if you were to smoke less. I have a tremendous lung capacity. I coughed. Like Sam Spade. He's widely admired for his virile smoking. Uh-huh, sighed Darla. I think I've heard quite enough about your Mr. Spade. We're going to find him, Darla. We have to. Yes, Robin, so you say. I took in the view as I puffed on my menthol columns. Darla, see that immense spindly structure extending out there across the bathwater? What do you suppose it is? Why, Robin, that's the Golden Gate Bridge. Isn't it magnificent? It's big, all right. Hey, didn't you once say you could see the Golden Gate Bridge from the roof of the lab? That must mean you can see the lab from the Golden Gate. No, Robin, I never said that. You must have misunderstood me. Oh, damn. I wonder which direction Berkeley is from here. It's hard to say, Robin. Shall we go? There's another place I want to show you. I found it a few days ago with Julie. How's she doing? She's devastated, of course. I got her to eat a few maggots this morning. Oh, she'll get over it, I said. I hope so, Robin. Love can be a burden. I know what you mean, I said, thinking of my beloved Mary Ann. I only hope she isn't presently lavishing her affections on some impostor in my cage. Isn't she pretty? Commented Darla, alighting on a concrete column beside a low wall inlaid with colorful patterns. It's so quiet and peaceful here. Yes, it's very pleasant, I panted, landing heavily beside her. Another taxing flight at dizzying altitudes had brought us to a verdant area thick with fat round trees. Along the oddly decorated wall were a row of wooden benches, entirely empty of smokers at their leisure. I was sorry to see. No pigeon chow ladies either. What is this place, Darla? It's a park, Robin. The George Sterling Glade. He was a famous poet. Never heard of him. The metal plaque mounted on this column contains some lines from a poem he wrote about San Francisco. According to Julie, it goes, though the dark be cold and blind, yet her sea fog's touch is kind, and her mightier caress is joy and pain thereof, and great is thy tenderness, O cool gray city of love. Tenderness, huh? I said. Well, I haven't noticed much of that. And you're not likely to either, said a voice. We turned in surprise. In a nearby tree sat a small bird, extravagantly colored like Mr. Geriger, but with coral rather than green shades predominating. You're a parakeet, Darla exclaimed. Uncommon discernment for a pigeon, commented the bird. We're not pigeons, I replied. We're people. And more than a little pretentious, said the bird. That's certainly a human quality. He killed himself, you know. Who? Asked Darla. George Sterling. All the great poets kill themselves. It must be a difficult occupation, I said, thankful I had opted for detective work. Difficult and tragic, agreed the bird, assuming you have any talent at all. Do you by any chance know a woman named Francesca? I asked. Her boyfriend has a hole in his beak. The bird gave a start. I am not going back to Francesca. I'd rather plunge into the bay and be eaten by a mollusk. It's wonderful being free, agreed Darla. Few aspects of existence qualify as wonderful, said the bird. Life is degrees of dreariness, relieved fitfully by acute miseries. Name's Sunny, short for sunshine. We introduced ourselves, and, at the bird's invitation, flew over to its tree. Forgive me for asking, Sunny, said Darla, but are you a male or a female parakeet? An excellent question, it replied. I only wish I knew the answer. You don't know what sex you are? I exclaimed. Alas, no, it admitted. I was frightfully young when I left the pet store, hardly more than an eggling. I barely remember my parents, and Francesca, who named me, was completely clueless in that area, as she is on all matters of consequence. That's awful, I said. Tell me, do you feel at all inclined toward nest building? Not really. All that bustling about, and then what do you have? A pile of sticks. Darla pondered this. Well then, she said, do you desire to smoke tobacco, imbibe intoxicating beverages, and cheat on your loving mate? Not so far, Sunny admitted, although it might make a pleasant change. Of course, I don't have a loving mate at the moment, being in a state of sexual crisis. Darla and I exchanged glances. A case for Mr. Jerriger, she ventured. I think so, I replied. Sunny, you must come back with us. We know an expert who may be able to help you. An expert, said the lugubrious bird, is someone who ornaments his ignorance with garlands of recondite nomenclature. But do let us make haste. Kinney reports that neither his missing halibut nor a person matching the description of Sam Spade has been seen in the vicinity of the bookstore. More perplexing. We decided to cope with this new disappointment by getting extremely blotto. We sent the busy Seagull out on another daring daylight liquor store holdup while we raided nearby pedestrians for smokes. I can't believe you folks socialize with seagulls, remarked Sunny. They are seen at all the garbage dumps in town, you know. That seagull saved my life, said Honky, puffing on a Chester Boggs. And Mr. Jerriger's, too. The two parakeets eyed each other skeptically. To everyone's surprise, Mr. Jerriger was not able to inform our new guest of its sex. He explained that Sunny was only the second parakeet he'd ever met, himself being the first, and therefore he was hardly an expert on the species. He has agreed, however, to take the matter under consultation. We are hoping for a quick resolution. Hey, who said you could smoke and drink in here? Demanded Blanche, returning with Julie from a dumpster run. Blanche, we must be hospitable to our guests, said Darla, though I don't see how their choice of refreshments will be at all helpful to Mr. Jerriger's convalescence. I knew this billboard would turn into a den of drunken carousing, grumbled Blanche. To everyone's surprise, Julie decided to sample the sherry, though she declined to smoke. Blanche was shocked. Julie, why are you drinking that vile poison? She demanded. For the usual reasons, she replied. To deaden the pain, mostly. But it's Mr. Jerriger who's in pain, Blanche pointed out. Well then, I'm helping him, said Julie, downing a not inconsequential swig. Of course, now that I think of it, observed Sunny, taking to the sherry like a seagull takes to a halibut. Pigeons are often seen at garbage dumps, too. I recall very little about what happened after that. Darla informs me that I passed out with a lit cigarette in my beak and nearly burned the billboard down. I think she's exaggerating. If I didn't feel so wretched, I'd wake up Petey and ask him if he knows how half my breast feathers came to be singed off. Darla tells me I look like something the cat dragged in. In my present condition, I almost wish Pinkerton himself had finished the job. More dreary bathwater raining down. Sonny and Mr. Geriger went up early to his office, a small metal box riveted to an upper quadrant of the main machinery housing. Accessible only to parakeets, it provides a private setting for uninhibited personal revelations. We sent Kenny out for the morning paper, which became so weightily waterlogged in the downpour, he arrived with only a soggy fragment of the front page. Nor, despite repeated attempts, have we had any better success with cigarettes. The damn bathwater keeps snuffing them out. My wings are shaking and I can't focus my eyes. My mouth feels like it's sprouting interior feathers. Peter and poor Honky appeared to be in similarly agitated states. We were so incapacitated, Julie had to read the newspaper for us. There's another inflammatory headline, she said, studying the damp page. What now? Groaned Honky. She read, Killer pigeons mug tops. Liquor raids alarm merchants. I don't recall mugging any tots, said Petey indignantly. What does it say? Julie read the first paragraph. Attacks by the so-called killer pigeons escalated yesterday as a trio of marauding birds descended on Esteval Garcia, aged 3.5, of 1609 Valencia Street, and robbed him of a bag of fried pork rinds. The child was shaken, but uninjured. We don't steal food from little kids, said Honky. Too bad, too. It sounds like they don't put up much of a fight. If I had to guess, said Petey, I'd say it was the work of the boys from Test Group D. It couldn't be, I pointed out. According to Dr. Milbreen, all the test subjects have returned to the lab. Maybe he's lying, suggested Darla. We all looked at her in shocked surprise. Well, people do lie, she insisted. Yes, they do, agreed Blanche. That miserable cad Wallace, for example. Julie pondered the moving billboard machinery as everyone's gaze shifted sympathetically toward her. If Test Group D is still in the city, said Darla, we should try to find them. Test Group D is not in the city, I replied, and the person we must locate is Sam Spade. Darla sighed. Well, you won't find your Mr. Spade by sitting around and drinking all day. She's right, Min, I said, somewhat offended. Let's go. But it's pouring outside, complained Petey. But I can't get my nice gold peg wet, protested Honky. It might rust. You're right, I said. Perhaps this is something I must do by myself. Chapter 14. On my way, I swiped a cigarette from one of a group of well-dressed smokers huddled together out of the cascading bathwater in the covered entry courts of a tall building. By now, desperate for a smoke, I boldly shared their shelter, loitering near them on a potted tree as I puffed madly away on the delicious and nicely dry Truel. Boy, look at that pigeon work that cigarette, said a tall man. I'm surprised he's not getting sick. If the truth be told, I was starting to feel a little lightheaded. I spat out the butt, flew woozily down to the pavement, and wandered out into the drenching bathwater. where I soon encountered a squat gray bird, possibly a pigeon. "Excuse me, sir," I said. "Can you direct me to the Mark Hopkins Hotel?" "Up the street," said the dripping bird, eyeing me suspiciously. "Top of Nob Hill." "Why do you want to know?" "I'm looking for someone," I replied, remembering to answer evasively, as all smart detectives do. "Well, I'd stay away from there, bub, if I were you," said the bird. "There's a giant pigeon-devouring falcon living up there." "Oh, I'm not a pigeon," I smiled. "I'm a person." "I'll bet you like fried pork rinds." "Why, yes, I'm sure I must. How do you know?" I asked. "Just a wild guess," said the bird. I found the falcon near the top of the hotel on a ledge under a sheltering parapet. I darted through a curtain of icy bathwater streaming over the edge and landed near the imposing bird. Startled, he turned his magnificent head, all beak and exotic cheekbones, in my direction, his fierce black eyes blinking sedately as he studied me with interest. "Oh, good," he exclaimed in a deep, resonant voice. "My lunch is being delivered today. I hate to go out in weather like this." "I know what you mean," I said, stamping my feet and shaking my feathers. "You'd think some bright graduate student would invent a way to put a stop to all this bathwater nonsense. I presume, sir, that you are the Mark Hopkins Falcon?" "I am," he said, chuckling. "I am indeed. And you, sir, impress me as a pigeon who likes to talk." "Oh, I'm not a pigeon," I explained. "I'm a person. My name is Robin." The falcon chuckled again. "I like a meal who likes to talk, Robin. Yes, indeed, I do. Name's Norris." "Glad to meet you, Norris." "The pleasure's all mine, I assure you." Except for his unsettling allusions to dining, the falcon seemed much more agreeable than I had been anticipating. "Tell me, Norris, are you as strong as you look?" "Why, yes, Robin. It will all be over quickly." "I suppose, Norris, you must have a tremendous wingspan." "I do, Robin, so you can empathize with my caloric needs." "My guess is, Norris, you could carry a great deal more than, say, your average seagull, for example." "Infinitely more, Robin. In fact, I've been known to dine on the occasional seagull." "Yes, I know. You recently dined on the father of a seagull friend of mine."
Be assured, Robin, I enjoyed him thoroughly. Why this why this reckless curiosity about my lifting capacity?"
"Norris, have you ever heard of the Maltese falcon?"
"Why, no,"
he said, clearly intrigued.
"does she live around here?"
"No, but I know where she lives."
"Take me there, Robin," the bird implored. "I won't eat you if you do. You have no idea how hard it is to get any falcon companionship these days."
"Of course I will, Norris. That's what I'm here for."
"Robin, you are a most remarkable pigeon. Most remarkable."
"Thank you, Norris, but
"I'm a person, not a pigeon."
Norris peered at me intently.
"Well, you certainly look like a pigeon, Robin. A ratty, half-bald pigeon with curiously red feathers, but we mustn't judge by appearances. Funny, I've never eaten a person, although the thought has often crossed my mind."
Norris, the Maltese falcon is inside that building." Wisps of steam rose from my outsized companion as cold bathwater continued to dribble from the sky. We were perched on a pole across the street from Joel Cairo's deceptively named bookstore. A large wooden panel had been affixed crudely across the broken front window.
Inside, you say, Robin? What's she doing inside a building?
She's being held prisoner, Norris.
That's awful. I shall certainly eat the person responsible for this outrage. How do we get inside?
Well, Norris, I was thinking you could pick up that loose brick down there and hurl it against the glass door.
An excellent plan, Robin.
One thing, though, Norris. There may be a cat inside.
A cat, you say?
He said, hesitating.
How big is it?
Well, he's pretty big and plenty fierce. His name is Pinkerton.
I shall eat Pinkerton, too. I always wanted to eat a cat. I'll share him with Maltese. Might be a good icebreaker, you know?
I'm not sure we'll have much time for dining, Norris. We have to make a fast getaway.
Oh, all right, Robin. I can always pick up a quick cat later.
As I had hoped, the brick proved just as efficacious in shattering glass as Kenny's purloined halibut. Joel Cairo rose from his stool with a cry as I soared triumphantly in through the gaping hole. Behind me swooped Norris, his colossal wings seeming to overwhelm the dim confines of the narrow store. "Holy shit!" squealed Cairo, ducking behind the counter. Alarm flung open Pinkerton's liverish eyes. Terror energized his muscles, and he bolted off the counter as papers and books scattered in all directions.
"I'm going to eat you, cat," taunted Norris. "Robin, where's my darling Maltese?"
"Straight ahead," I shouted. "On the shelf."
"I see her, Robin. Oh, no. She's not moving."
"Don't worry, Norris. They've wrapped her up. You'll have to carry her."
"Excuse me, miss,"
said Norris, delicately gripping the statuette in his huge talons. He launched off the shelf and plummeted toward the floor, thudding the heavy statuette against the skull of the cowering Joel Cairo, who slumped moaning to the linoleum. His cat was nowhere to be seen.
"My God, Robin, have I killed her?"
"I don't think so, Norris."
"We've got to get her out of this metal suit, Robin."
There's not enough time, Norris. People will be coming. You'll have to carry her as is." Breathing heavily, Norris exchanged anxious looks with me, then pushed tentatively against the statuette with his beak. Cairo moaned. Norris turned and bit him viciously in the thigh. I pecked him sharply on his pasty neck.
"Robin, I'll have to lighten my load."
The falcon stepped back and smoothly disgorged the contents of his stomach, several half-digested birds, possibly pigeons, on Joel Cairo's polished brown loafers. When he had finished, Norris belched and wiped his beak on Cairo's brown tweed jacket.
"I hope I haven't offended you, Robin."
"No, it looks quite appetizing, especially the slimy red morsels. Can you carry Maltese now?"
"I'll give it a try, Robin, though I fear I won't be much use on dates if I get a hernia in the process."
Norris gripped the black statuette, flapped his great wings, lurched, strained, cursed, flapped some more, and fluttered down the aisle and out the broken door with his precious cargo. Still no sign of the cowardly cat. I followed behind as Norris and his new love rose laboriously into the dripping gray sky. "Splendid, Norris!" I called. "You're doing wonderfully."
"God!"
he gasped. The struggling falcon through clenched beak.
"What a fellow has to do to get a date in this town."
"Robin," said Darla, "may I have a private word with you?" "Yes, Robin, I think we'd all like to speak with you privately," added Petey. "Of course," I replied. "Norris, why don't you put Maltese down there under the crossbeam of the billboard? She'll be safely out of the rain there."
"Okay, Robin," he replied. "But shouldn't we try to get her out of this damn metal suit? What if she starts to rust?"
In a minute, Norris. My friends wish to speak to me. I followed them into our billboard domicile. Robin, why have you brought that falcon here? Demanded Darla. He's drunk, charged Blanche. Drunk and insane. No, I'm not, I replied calmly. Norris has given me his word that he won't eat any of you. He's very nice, actually. He helped me break into Joel Cairo's shop and obtain the Maltese falcon. And what's with this sudden compulsion to collect art? Demanded Pete. Let me explain, I replied. We're looking for Sam Spade, right? Right, said Petey. Okay, so what is Sam Spade looking for? I asked. That's easy, said Hunky. The beautiful, mysterious Bridget O'Shaughnessy. Correct, I admitted. But he's also hunting for the Maltese falcon. And now that rare and valuable statuette is in our possession. Therefore, instead of us trying to find Mr. Spade, he'll be looking for us. And with that master detective on our trail, I'm sure we'll be meeting up with him soon. Brilliant, said Petey. Absolutely brilliant. Very ingenious, Robin, agreed Darla. But I'm somewhat confused on one point. Wasn't the statuette on display in a public store? Why didn't your Mr. Spade locate it there? Oh, detectives don't have time to read, I explained. They lead much too glamorous lives for that. What about Kenny? Asked Honky. He'll go ballistic if he sees that falcon. We've got to persuade him to forgive and forget, I replied. Norris assures me he's prepared to apologize to the lad. Where is Kenny? Taking some egg foo yoon to his mom, said Honky. She always gets cravings for Chinese food when it rains. Mr. Jerger and Sonny went along for the ride. We were interrupted by the sounds of a desperate struggle outside. We rushed to the box opening. The woman screamed. Blanche and Julie collapsed in a dead faint. Norris looked up from the feathery carcass he was dining on. Hi, folks, he said. Boy, I was feeling peckish after that workout. Want some? The falcon held out his lunch. It was our late cage mate, Wallace. Oh, no.